Celeb Savant, Barrydle Singer at Solid Gold podcast in Randburg, Johannesburg, South Africa. We have got in the interviewee seat, Mr. Daniel Barron.
It's amazing to be here. Thanks so much. Thanks for having me. Yeah.
It's a pleasure. You've been on my interviewee list for a while, and we finally get you on
and thank
in
you.
the seat.
Thank you. It's really. I was just saying to you now. It's really it's refreshing to actually chat to someone out of my own studio, because I've been in the studio cave for a decent amount of time, just producing music. Obviously, still doing gigs and stuff in my own artist capacity, but as a producer, you kind of sit behind the scenes a bit as well. So nice to get up and chat to someone. Yeah.
Okay, so now let's rewind. At what age, whether as a child or teenager, did you think, okay, I want to be in this space? And then how did that journey progress?
It's a great question. I've always, as far back as I can remember, I've always been a little entertainer. I've always loved music beyond, even, jumping around doing little acting shows for my family and doing skits. Ever since I can remember, I've been singing, I've been in school productions, and then at the age of about 7, I started hitting on pots and pans and being a little drummer. And side note, my little 2-year-old is doing exactly the same, which is insane. Anyway, so when I started, when I was, I guess, old enough to, think about what I wanted to be, I've always wanted to be up on a stage and or making music.
So that thought, what were the next steps to then become professional?
So I guess I had a few sort of side steps or sort of, departures here and there where, you enter school, and you realize, oh wow, I'm also good at, maths, and I would maybe could or drawing and designing things. I could have been an architect at one point. That was one of my little sort of thoughts when I was in probably early grade 7, grade 8. But alongside that, the music was always there, and I think it was I know it was grade 9ish. I was about 14, 15, and my folks always took me to live music concerts. But this particular concert was a Robbie Williams concert. And that night, after watching that Robbie Williams show, and I wasn't just into Robbie, there was a lot of artists that I was listening to at the time, but witnessing that Robbie Williams concert, I realized I wanted to do that. So you could say the deciding factor or inception of my actual goal/dream started at the age of 15, I guess. I started thinking, wow, I could do this. I could perform properly in front of people and write songs. And that's when it all began, I guess. Yeah.
And then actually pursuing it professionally, were there any aspects of it that surprised you, that you did not realize would be part of the process, which is actually part of it then and now?
I guess when I was when I realized, okay, I need to, bite the bullet or suck up or create the courage, summons up the courage to stand in front of my peers at the time, which was in my little high school, and actually perform at a talent show, perform a song I'd written. That was the first realization of, oh wow, you got to have courage to do this. You can't just have the dream. You got to work a bit and actually get up and go for it. So at that point, I think I realized you needed a bit of strength to do it, because there's all very well having that airy fairy dream, and I'll never not have that dream. But and then it happened again after school when I entered South African Idols.
Okay.
And that was a big step. sorry, I was in matric at the time. And I'd said to my folks, I want to enter this. And I'd entered a couple of contests prior to that and little talent shows and stuff. But this was the big one. And I remember, waking up at 3 a.m. and my dad, saying, let's go quickly, let's hop in the car and let's go get to that queue. It was that one moment where you kind of wake up and you're like, wow, do I really want to do this? And you get scared. You get the little fear kicks in, and then you at that point you make that decision to either do it or not. And I remember I've never looked back ever since, And there are still those moments where you're like, whoa, this is a big one. This is a big step. Whew. But I've never looked back, and I absolutely, if I think back there, to the stages I've stood on, to the people I've worked with, to the things I've accomplished with the help of and love of tremendous amounts of different people and stepping stones and lessons, it's all been worth it beyond measure.
Seeing Robbie Williams perform, I know he was most probably not sober at that concert that you saw, but I saw him recently when he was sober. He makes it look very easy. He makes it look like it's just, okay, let's just do this. But I can understand that point of when you were on the stage or seeing him, and then during that talent show, and you realize, oh, you need to have courage for this, because when you see him prancing around and doing his thing, it feels like it's just, you get what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned that, seeing Robbie last year for me was a very full circle moment for me personally with my journey. And I looked at the timeline and went back. I think I worked out it was about 20 years since the inception of my dream. And it was. Last year it was exactly 20 years since I witnessed Robbie. I'd already been in, doing musical things around the house. But that inception of the dream happened 20 years ago. And then standing in the middle of the Sun Arena, watching Robbie 20 years later, seeing his journey and seeing how wonderfully he's, flourished in his own personal life, and still seeing his amazing showmanship and all of that, which has always inspired me. But me standing there, it was like the room, just everyone disappeared, and I was just standing watching him, and I zoned into. It wasn't a selfish thought, but I just had a full circle moment in my life, and very emotional. I stood there crying because just the power of that moment, thinking that this guy influenced my dream. And here I am 20 years later, and I've made a full-scale career out of it, and still have big dreams, and I'm 35, and just it motivated me, but it was very, very, it was quite a crazy moment
So just saying, Inception of the Dream sounds like a song title. I'm just putting it out there.
It could even be an album. Wow. Yes. I love it. Thank you.
Okay, now, you referenced sometimes there's that fear of doing the new things and putting yourself there, needing the courage. So this is an interesting conversation. I feel that there are comfort zones that people consciously or unconsciously create in their lives.
Yes.
And they, again, consciously or unconsciously self-sabotage themselves not to achieve certain things because they're understanding that, again, reiterating consciously or consciously that if I'm now successful in not only entertainment, wherever, CEO, manager, whatever, their studies in athletics, means that now I will be seen, means that they will now be seen, that now they're accountable. They need to pitch up, be present, and say yes. And I'll give you an example. So I teach spinning classes, and I've been teaching for years, and the spinning bikes is first come, first serve. There's not pre-booking or anything. And you have the certain people who come on the Wednesday or the Thursday, And if their bike's taken, it's like, oh, they get so angry and frustrated. My bike. And it's not that. It's just basically they've created literally, again, consciously or unconsciously, a comfort zone in a spinning bike in a studio that they go once a week.
Yeah, that's so true.
This whole conversation about self-sabotaging and the courage and the fear and comfort zones, what are your thoughts around all of this and your experience of it, and how have you overcome it in your world?
So it's if I analyze it after what you said there, which is really so true, my entire life, every single day, is about getting out of my comfort zone. Every single day of, number one, this career, me as a father, as a husband, me as a as a songwriter, as a producer, as a performer, as a public figure. It every day showcases something that I got to, whether it's dealing with a client, whether it's dealing with a certain artist personality, because I'm obviously a music producer as well as being an artist myself, or dealing with having to step onto a massive stage and at a show where I've done a performance, which is in my comfort zone, but then be asked last minute to MC, for instance. So it's not being and just saying absolutely, of course, these sort of things, to just embrace being out of your comfort zone, I think is healthy for our souls, for our minds, and then physically, what I've been doing lately, and I started doing this about 2 years ago, is ice bathing. Now that is a direct thing of getting out of your comfort zone in a big way, physically and mentally, and I'm all for it. So yeah, when you said comfort zones, I'm like, yeah, that's all me. I love that. I love stepping out and just facing the fear. There's probably a couple of fears that I have that I maybe am too scared to face here and there, but I believe in facing your fears. Yeah.
And your experience on Idols?
So I was 18. I was, I think, one of the youngest of the lot, and made it to that first standing in the queue, thousands of people, and then what you see on TV is there's already been a whole lot of different rounds before that first TV round. So you're standing, they're filtering the crowds, they're choosing the best and the worst. I don't know. I think it looks like that's what it was. Choosing the entertainment of it for the camera,
for the story.
Yes, yeah. And then you go through the first round, and you someone just and then you eventually get put into a room and you get a yay or a nay. And then I went through the next round. You see the producers of the show, and then you get another yes, and then you're on the TV round, and then the nerves were tremendous for an 18-year-old, continuous out of one's comfort zone, and shaking to the core, and then before you know it, you standing in the top 14 kind of thing, and absolutely beautiful experience. That from witnessing the other talents, the other, being in a room with all people that have the same dream as you, very, very powerful, very powerful. Also overwhelming to see how many other people have your dream, and then getting to know the different talents, which I'm still connected with today, and then the being in front of a camera. That was like college for me, training of being in front of cameras, learning how to try and be yourself in front of a camera, knowing that there's a million people watching you and trying to perform to a crowd, trying to entertain the crowd, but also knowing that there's this camera you got to be feeding into, So it was like a little college varsity for me, Idols, at a very young age. And it was a great year because I was actually head boy in my matric year as well. So I was pulled out of school suddenly, and then heartbreaking to get kicked out of the show because I obviously didn't win. You go into the top 14 thinking, wow, I could win this.
Yeah.
But getting kicked out, you don't get enough votes at a certain point, and I made it to the top 9. And now I've got to try and remember what I made it to. But at the time, it's it's like almost the end of the world when you get booted off. But probably again one of the best things I could have gone through, because you have that letdown, and that hunger just boils up, and you just want to just keep pushing. So I think had I won it at that age, I don't know if I would have had that same hunger that I still do now. I've got this fire in me that wants to achieve. It wants my anyone I'm affiliated with to achieve. It's those sort of little letdowns are so good for us. Yeah. Anyway, I digress. Yeah.
No. So these shows, they still have their strong following. I think there's still American Idols. I'm not sure where else they have it around the world.
Yeah.
Do you think they're still as relevant they are now, especially for the artists, compared to like from the 2000s to 2014, 15? The reason I say that, because there's still the Voice UK, Voice Australia, Voice America, and then you see all these people, but then after the show, like, they just disappear.
Yeah. Well, that's it. I think at the time that I was on was probably the pinnacle or the peak of those sort of shows, of the talent shows. I think it is old news now, and I don't want to, it is still, fun to watch, and I think a lot of people still enjoy watching it. But I think, that sort of model of that talent show is still, it's great. It is still entertaining, but I think it's happened so many times. I think there are people that are tired of watching those sort of things. I do think that's the reality of it. But with that said, every now and again I get sent a video of some sort of talent show, and I spot talent now because I help develop new talent. So I'm still for one interested in that. But I think the Idols model was really, I think, very just entertaining also from that first audition standpoint, where you had people that couldn't sing. And I think that was half the factor of the entertainment that stuck with people as well. So look, I still think it's a nice, a wonderful entertainment model, but I just think it's been done so many times now. It's a bit saturated, or it got saturated to a point. Yeah.
So you mentioned that you, like, in your world, you spot talents.
Yeah.
So obviously this is your perception and your experience. What is there in someone that allows you to think, oh, they've got something? Is it something in each person, or is it very separate for each experience that you've had?
So everyone has something unique. Every artist I've come to know, and whether I've collaborated with them and performed with them, whether I've written a song for them or produced a song for them or just assisted them with some guidance in their career. Sometimes it's hard to put a finger on it, what it is in some people. Sometimes it's just this wonderful spark that is just memorable. All the time, because I work so closely with recording different vocals, like different voices, every voice that I've worked with has such a beautiful uniqueness. So, yes, there are singers that are maybe more trained or are more capable, but even the less capable singers may have some sort of crazy magic that enables them to even go further than the highly trained vocal register of 5 octaves person that sings tremendously well and is as beautiful in their own way vocally. Sometimes the untrained or less capable artist that's maybe never done it before, never gotten into a studio before, just has some crazy magic. So there's no rules. I've never been able to put a finger on. Yes, per person you're able to say, wow, there's a vocal tone here that's amazing, or look at the way they write songs. What are these magical things that they come up with, these melodies, or just how amazing are they on stage? Or everyone's got their thing, and some of them have multiple things about them. So yeah, I think it's there's no real one thing.
But also now these imperfections that you referenced in sort of the way they are potentially untrained, people will lean more towards that, because now with AI coming up and being everything going to be so perfect in what's trained, that they'll be like, oh, we want things that aren't real.
Yes.
And the realness will come in those imperfections.
Absolutely, 100%. And that's why I say, when I've, for instance, just written a song for an artist and they're coming through to me to record it, or we're getting ready and I've produced the whole instrumental and now's the time to record. A lot of the time I say to the artist, don't live with the song for too long. Don't learn it too well. Don't become over familiar with it, because the magic that I've witnessed on a first demo take is sometimes the take we go for. With my stuff as well. If I've just written a song, I get so excited to quickly lay down the vocal, to put the voice onto the track. And 9 times out of 10, that first magic that I get, you can't better it. There's something special about that new magic that's not been over listened to by the artist themselves or by the creator of their own stuff, that there's some certain magic, and to sometimes over recording again and again and trying to search for the best and the best, it's hard to beat that first magic. Yeah, that's what, as a producer, I say that. Yeah.
So you're releasing new music after not releasing for a couple of years, because you've been behind the desk producing. So what was the thought now to say, okay, I'm going to start releasing my own stuff again?
So if I had the time a year ago, I probably would have put stuff out myself. But you know, the beauty and the unpredictability of the trajectory of the last 2 years of my career has been behind the desk, serving the industry from another angle, which has just been a true gift in two senses of that. In the sense that I'm a young father now. I'm starting a family, and I've got young children, and to be present and not touring the world and touring the country all over the place, to be present in my home studio, running my, as busy as I am, I'm still present with as a dad. So that is very, very, it's a blessing beyond measure. And then on the other hand, witnessing and getting to work with the amount of different artists has just been an absolute, I count my blessings every day with that, because to be able to use what I've learned, not only as a musician and a producer and a singer, which I can impart, and I'm able to, guide these, artists that I work with creatively, but also from a business sense, and from the sense of, certain decision making, certain things that are happening on a daily basis in different artists' careers. I can assist in more ways than just on the music side. I help, different life decisions when it comes to what artists go through, business decisions, and I don't know what to do when you arrive at a gig and there's no sound guy kind of thing, or just certain things that many artists require guidance with, how to register your songs when you write songs, so being behind the desk has been an absolute joy. Back to your original question and point is, being able to release my own stuff. It is my first passion, writing my own stuff, and although I write a lot of music for other people, it's a wonderful, wonderful joy to get to record other people, and it's incredible. And the fuel I get from seeing clients and artists that have had tremendous success out of their careers from songs that I've produced or written is just absolutely wonderful, and I'll never stop doing that. But getting to go back to my own soul and jot down what I want to create is also a special thing. One of my main goals as a producer is not to ever force my way or vision for a song. It's always that my artists are the first people that are happy. And if there's a certain direction that they want to take, I champion whatever they want. And yes, a big part of being a producer is finding one's sound, and that's, a big part of my job, making hits, without trying to. But, sitting at home and just writing one of my own songs that I will release is a special exercise for me that I love doing. So yeah, getting the chance to do it is a big part of my New Year's resolution for this year. I'm going to be releasing a lot more of my own stuff, and I find the time. Yeah.
When you're writing a song, how do you know that this is for Daniel and this is for another artist?
So sometimes the line is blurred. I've had a few interesting scenarios where I actually, it was a band that I was working with last year on an album that eventually ended up getting 2 SAMA nominations. So it was a wonderful band. The band's name is The Morning After. Incredible country rock band that are just in such high demand with their gigs. They're like one of the most successful live book bands. Anyway, I got the joy of being able to produce their debut album, and it did significantly well for them. One of the songs that I presented to them, it was one of the first songs that I had written, with them in mind. We even recorded them. We recorded them on this particular song, and then it happened that a month or so after they'd adopted the song and embodied it so wonderfully and perfectly, it became one of their favorite tracks. I just had this epiphany. I thought one day, I was like, I need this song for myself. And as selfish as it sounds, myself and the lead singer of the group and the main head writer of the band had this chat, and I was like, Dirk, I don't know what it is, and I've never done this before, but can I have the song back, and I will give you guys another song, and we'll do another song. And he was so chilled with it, and that is the beauty of having these dealing with these wonderful minds and these wonderful hearts of artists. He was just so happy for me to have it back, and yeah, that became my song again. And it was so personal for me that I had to have back, and I ended up releasing it as well. Anyway, so I embody what if there's different ways in terms of how I work. Whether the artist is a songwriter, then I sit with them and then we co-write. We co-write together there and then. If the artist is not a songwriter, I will write on my own or with them, and maybe almost take them through the process and embody and get into their minds and write what they want to write. So generally then it's like, literally, I wouldn't say it's like spec writing, but it's very much getting into their heads and writing what they would write. And then it's their song, and yeah, so that writing process, sure, it's got no real formula to it. I was just with a new artist before I came through to your studios, and trying to explain how a song is written is very difficult. It just happens very magically and very sort of mysteriously, yeah. The line is sometimes blurred though when I write, and that's why I love it so much. That's why, sorry, this is my last point on that. Sorry, I know I'm rambling.
No.
When I write for other artists and when I produce for them, I get so invested in it and that's why I love it so much as well. It becomes part of me as well. So yeah, that's the kind of producer I am. I'm an artist producer. I know what it's like to be an artist. And that's I love it so much. Yeah.
So there's this whole comparison thing in every person's life in every industry, specifically in the music industry. Now, you referenced earlier about writing hits and writing songs that'll be successful.
Yeah.
How do you personally and give advice to artists that you've worked with for a second, second time. Like, for example, this band, the morning after, they got Simon nominations. Now,
Yeah, they're doing so well.
Now, all of a sudden, they think, okay, we now need to compete with that and create another thing that's the same.
Yeah.
And there's that whole comparison of like, we have to
make another hit. Yeah,
exactly.
So, I've adopted a bit of a theory from one of my, producers that I look up to. Well, he's not my producer, a producer out there by the name of Rick Rubin, who's obviously worked with, everyone out there as well, from the rockiest of rock to the classics of classics. Rick Rubin said in a few videos I've witnessed it, that you should never try and make something to please others and to try and please the world, or to try and make a hit, or to try and make decisions on something creative to please other people. The first person that you need to please is yourself. You need to make something that you love, that you would first make without any outside factors that influence your decisions. The decisions you make for your art is for your art and for the best that art can be for you. So I preach that to my artists that I work with, especially the ones, as you say, that come back and they now got to make this next hit or this next album and try and better what they've done before. And I say, wait, you're going about it the wrong way. We're not here to try and make the next Sama smash or number one hit in South Africa. We're not here to do that. We're here because you love what you do. We are here to make art. My job is to obviously encapsulate that art, to make it really good and really potent, that it's tough to say no to for the commercial buyer or listener or radio station, and for the general public. And that happens naturally for me. I don't try and produce a hit. I thank heavens I just have this sense to just create something that generally just sounds great. And whether it's as alternative as anything or as meant to be as pop as anything, it just generally happens. But for the artist, it's very important to go in and make something without any outside factors influencing their decisions. Yeah.
So you're dealing with, or you're collaborating with a lot of younger artists, upcoming artists.
Yes.
And you said you're giving them guidance around the business side of things.
Yes.
And various choices they're making.
Yeah.
What have you noticed is the most common thing that they are challenged with at the moment, that they are struggling with, that you could give guidance in this moment to anyone who's listening?
So it's inherent in most of us creators that our dream comes first, that airy-fairy vision, and it can be a real vision, because I've had that vision and then it eventually happened. But standing on a stage in front of thousands of people, that vision, that vision of seeing your song at number one, keep those visions. And I say to you, new music makers, new artists out there, and it actually doesn't really matter what sort of art you're making, keep that vision, hold on to that vision, but at the same time, know that you've got to work really hard for it, and you cannot at any point be lazy. It's fine to take a couple of hours off every now and again, but when it comes to there's going to be certain things that you don't enjoy doing to get to that vision. So that is very powerful, because there's and that's why I say it's inherent in most of us artists to have that vision and to see that big dream, and I want to be this, I want to be that, I want to have a hit, I want to, some will want different things than others. But what about the business side? What about holding it down on the admin? What about arriving early to interviews? What about just taking pride in the stuff that you may not be as good at? What about learning about the law of the music law behind it, the technicalities of just the jargon of what this means, what this what a technical writer is, what a 24-bit 48 kilohertz WAV file is. WAV file. What do those things mean? What does it mean to jump into a studio and say, can you turn my vocals up in the mix, but turn the backtrack down? Learn those sort of things. But anyway, the main thing that I'm getting at here is the more practical side of the non-music side of the music business. Learn and don't be afraid and don't be lazy to really hone in on that other side and not be afraid to send out an invoice and not be afraid to follow up on that invoice. Just things like that, I find a lot of artists are not non-confrontational people. They battle to deal with certain sort of issues and they'd rather pass it on to someone. But not everyone's going to have a manager and a personal manager and a PA, there's certain moments where you've got to know how to handle yourself. Even little things like saying thank you, in an email or just conducting yourself correctly. These are normal business practices that even the rockiest of rock stars need to know. And I think those are, and my main thing just for people that are getting into this business and this industry is to always remember that you are no more important than anyone else. I still maintain that. I always, when I walk into the biggest of gigs where I'm, earning a really good sum of money to perform at a corporate event or a music festival, you always go up and you show respect to everyone, even the guy that's helping with your sound on stage. Or I just think that mutual respect, humility is so important, man. Yeah. Sure, that was a preach there.
No. Well, I mean, it's important for a lot of people to hear. So then I'd love your observation of this next topic. In South Africa, we don't have access, as we know, because everything closed down. But I love me a CD. I still budget for my CDs every month. Yeah. I get them from Amazon UK.
Awesome, man.
I love the journey of the choice, the booklet, the unpacking, the listening to song from 1 to whatever number.
Wow. Now that you've said that, I need to sign some. I've got some CDs from I've got 4 albums that I could sign for you of my own.
Yes, please. Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
You should have told me you're a CD fan.
Absolutely. No, so that's a yes for me for those. But I was literally reading an article earlier. In the US, the vinyl sales have reached $1.4 billion, the most since 1983.
Wow, that is amazing.
3 years ago in the UK, 5.9 million pounds, the biggest since 1993.
Jeez.
Last year in the UK, there's a basket of products that they gauge exchanges on, and based on these exchanges, which there needs to be a high number every day, they monitor it for tax purposes. Huh. Because of the upsurge of CDs are now back in the basket. And the research of all of this is showing that it's the teenagers, it's the younger kids diving into this world, not the older nostalgic people. Wow. Then we have the Spotify, the DSPs, all these places people consume music on. What are your observations of the landscape at the moment?
I think, sure, I mean, for me now as a music creator and as an artist, obviously the DSPs are tremendously important. I mean, it's really, we've got to get the music out. And as sad as it is in the sense of the lower earnings and all of that, the music's out there. It's accessible. It's accessible to the person on the other corner of the earth that possibly has never even, heard your name before, but they might get it on a little algorithmic playlist. The odds of you getting picked up now are larger. Yes, I know there's a hell of a lot more music out there and it's easier to get onto these DSPs and all of that, but it's just more accessible. And that's the upside. That is really cool to know that you can, and then you can check out that song, and then you can check out their whole catalog, and then you can go search them and find them on Instagram. And I think it's back in the 60s, 70s, 80s. I mean, you were lucky if you could catch a little live TV show that featured them, or a music video on a program as a bonus. Like, that was lucky. That was just luck. But now it's very accessible, and obviously that's also got its downside, and it's become, once again, oversaturated and all of that. But that's amazing. Now that you've told me about that, I didn't know that the vinyl market is booming at that much. I didn't realize that. So you've now given me an idea to release my next album on vinyl. I'd love to do that. Yeah, absolutely love to. So, yeah. The other thing is, it's the whole DSP thing and the social media side of things has given that unknown artist that probably would have never managed to get a record deal anyway the opportunity to go to a producer and get a really a decent production done and get it straight accessible to the world. You know, I know that would have been really a futuristic thought back in the day, I think. Yeah. So I think it's an upside to a lot of it. And I obviously still, you know, disagree with the fact that it's such a low earning. But with that said, I mean, in my own capacity, I can say, like, one of my biggest hits, that probably has well over 1 million streams or whatever, because I released it independently. You don't make a bad buck, you know, off the DSPs. Yes, nowhere near what you'd make off CDs.
Yeah.
But you don't make a bad buck, you know, and you put it back and invest it back into your music, and then on the other hand, what I must give it up to is our radios. Our radios in South Africa are amazing. The radio stations are so powerful with playing music. You know, that's a beautiful thing, because they pay their royalties. They pay the royalties get collected by SAMRO and SAMPRA, mm-hmm. and SAMPRA, of which I'm actually on the board of directors of, and they collect it and then they distribute it to the artists. So radio stations, I'm such a massive fan of radio. That's an old technology and an old thing that for me is as powerful today, if not just a gem. You know, okay. It's real.
Okay, so tell us what's coming up, and it's all very secretive in your guys' world. You mentioned the album. Do you know when it's coming out? Tell us about the new music. Tell us all about those different things.
So right now, this is a single that's dropping. It's a brand new song called Beautiful Bad Dream. And it's something I've been working on behind the scenes, a couple of late night music making sessions after hours, and just, you know, doing my thing and doing what I always do every day, but this time just for myself, which is really, really therapeutic. And it's a beautiful pop rock song down to the roots of who I am as an artist, and it's really a nice song to just listen to, and it's a lacquer tune. Yeah, that will come out. Well, it's out now, and then following probably towards the end of the year, I'm going to have a full scale album out. I've been saying this since last year, but I've got so many songs. I mean, a producer / songwriter / artist like myself has, whether it's songs I've written yesterday, come up with a cool tune in the car and think, oh wow, let me bank that one, or a song that's 10 years old that's in my catalog. If I go through my notes and my recordings on my phone with ideas, there's thousands. Wow. And it's cataloged stuff that either I've finished or are sort of unfinished, ready to be, you know, finished. But yeah, I've probably got another 10 albums in me, you know. But yeah, this year I'm going to drop an album, and it's me as an artist that loves all styles of music. I am kind of like a chameleon. I love dance, pop, rock, classical, hip hop. What didn't I say? Jazz. Yeah. I love all styles. So it's an intermingled Daniel Barron mashup of everything, and that's generally it comes out sounding quite lacquer. Other times it can be a little bit of a very much alternative mishmash, which I still love, but that's me. Yeah.
I love this next game. I know if I had to ask you this question tomorrow or the next day or even in 2 minutes' time, I know your answer will be different every time.
Okay.
Because there are millions. I'm not saying favorite. Very important. I'm not saying favorite. I'm saying top of mind.
Okay.
If once you finish this conversation on the way home, you want to push play to 5 other artists, who would those artists be?
All right. So I've obviously got my dead-on favorites. Some of them are songs that artist did. I've got my favorites playlist that I'd always kind of revert back to. As you say, it is ever-changing. It can change, but I've got my standards. So U2 is my all-time favorite band, not only for their music, but for who they are and what they stand for, and they're just, what they've achieved, U2. That's I'd say number one on my list. Now, I've always promised myself that I would not ramble on this if I get asked this. Second on the list would have to be probably Robbie Williams. I mean, he's an all-time favorite, entertainer beyond measure, and he's got some really beautiful songs that have lived with me. Then, sure. A band I'm listening to, that's quite easy to listen to is actually, it's a band called Night Traveller, and it's very nice, easy listening soft rock, and they're a current band. It's just a wonderful. I could just put the album on, and it just sits with you, and it's very nice. It's like it doesn't distract you. And it's some really cool nostalgic sounding soft rock. So what is that? 3?
Yeah, 2 more.
Sure. I must list a more of a dance kind of vibe that Swedish House Mafia for me have been very groundbreaking with their electronic dance music sound, which I've always been a fan of, that sort of sound. And although, I guess their catalogue is rather vast. I mean, it's not crazy massive, but I really love that group. They're wonderful producers, and their sonics I've always, drawn from. Swedish House. Sure. It's very hard to tailor that. I've got what? One more.
One more.
Sure. I must list a female artist because that is there's a. Can I just quickly check on my phone here if you don't mind? You see, I would have forgotten this. Christine and the Queens.
Okay.
Sure. I'm like very moved by this band. I know she's a phenomenal songwriter and very, very out there. But Christine and the Queens, I would have forgotten. I've got so much new music that I listen to on a daily, like new stuff, and then obviously I'm listening to the stuff I produce as well. So I could list all of my artists as well. But
that will be for the next one. So Daniel, the podcast is listened to throughout the world. As a final message to the audience, what would you like to say?
Thank you for if you've sat through this whole chat. I'd like to say thanks for listening and for wanting to hear more about me, Daniel Barron. And whatever music you do listen to, I believe in the healing of music. I believe in the upliftment of music. And for me as an artist, that's one of my main aims, is to inspire, uplift, and so if you are listening to my music out there, whether it's my old or new, I hope it does something for you. And I guess a message, stay humble to those out there that are wanting to get into this industry. Remember who you are. Make music for yourself. And pop me a message as well. I mean, I'm very much accessible to the general public in terms of if you want advice on your music career, I'm here. So thanks so much, and thank you to you. It's been really it's really inspiring to look at my career. I don't get to do that often. So, Barrett, thank you very much for having me. It's amazing.
Pleasure. So, guys, as Daniel said, listen to music for upliftment, for joy, and for pleasure. Reach out to Daniel if you have any questions. Listen to his music. Listen to all music and let it inspire you. This is Celeb Savant signing out.
Another production from Solid Gold Podcasts.